All right, welcome back. Somebody is already on the stream, so props to you for joining early this week. Usually, first couple minutes are pretty empty, pretty lonely, but we'll just go ahead and get started. So last week we were finishing up this X-47B plane right here. And as you can see, there's still some locations where we could use some refinement. And so basically today is just kind of to wrap up this build, mostly just to like really secure everything in place. So probably like a line of tape here, here, just really reinforce everything and make sure everything's all set. Um, Last time I did this off camera, this wasn't on the live stream, but I also added some weight in the nose, just to give it a little bit more heft. Because if you think about it, the energy that is needed for flight in a glider is usually, well, it's not usually, it's based on physics. It's, it's dependent on mass and your velocity, right? So when you throw a plane, your energy being put into the plane is in the form of kinetic energy, which is the mass of your plane, 1/2 your mass times velocity squared. So that's basic physics, but essentially what that means is to really get an effective glider, you need a little bit of mass, right? You can't have all of your kinetic energy or energy of flight in your velocity, because velocity is a squared term and it decreases over time, right? Essentially what happens is, you have your aircraft, right? It's flying through the air. There's going to be drag, right? There's going to be skin friction, right? Just the air rubbing on the actual skin of the aircraft, as well as pressure drag, right? Because if you're at an angle of attack to create lift, there's going to be some component that's acting in the back direction, which is drag. So essentially your velocity decreases over time, and what happens with that is you lose energy really, really quickly. So you don't want all of your energy, all of your kinetic energy to be in your velocity. You can have a very high KE with a very high velocity, but your plane will speed down or slow down really, really quickly in that scenario. So you want to have some mass. And so basically I inserted a quarter underneath this front skin panel right here. So I made an incision right here and put it in. And so now there's some tape, just like lifting off. So the plan for this session today is to really just finish up this X-47B. It's really very close to being done. And so far from my limited indoors flight tests, this thing is pretty stable, pitch-wise. It might have some problems with yaw and roll, but we'll see if that, changes with a high-speed outdoors flight. Which, I still need to get flight test footage for this and make a proper video for it. I also need to make a proper video for the prototype 004, which I have in the other room, so I'm not going to bother with that. But you guys know what that looks like, because that was the very first project in this, series of live streams. So, let's just go ahead and start working on this. Again, if you're new here, the goal of these live streams is not to really, I guess, teach per se. I mean, you can refer to it if you want, to learn some techniques, but really the goal is to have like an open studio, atmosphere where you can also be working on your projects at the same time and have the stream on in the background. So a little bit different today. I actually, because it's really getting really warm here, so I actually turn on the AC. So hopefully today we won't experience too much phone overheating issues. But if it does overheat, just know that it's probably on pause. and I'll be back in like a couple minutes. But hopefully that's not going to be a problem today. So with that said, we're going to finish this up and we'll see what project we'll do next once we get there. Um, I am open to recommendations of aircraft to build, based on real life. I think I want to do something a little bit different for the next project. So let's move this camera a little bit closer and get started. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is grab some tape. All right, tape is the key here for all of my build techniques. This is just, I think it's 1 inch Scotch tape, regular Scotch tape. And really this all started with like, so it's not exactly 1 inch, it's 3/4 of an inch. It's kind of skewed my perception of what an inch is, but this is 3/4. I did get like a bunch of rolls. I showed it in my last stream. So we are definitely not low on tape. So we might actually do some lamination work with this this one right here. So hopefully will be more durable and more weatherproof, because tape, if you think about it, it's essentially plastic film, right? It's really weak in shear, but it's relatively strong in terms of tension, right? So when you pull on it, it's really strong. So it has really nice tensile strength. And so what happens when you laminate it to a structure like this on your aircraft is you get this really nice thin and lightweight film, basically plastic film. And just grab my X-Acto knife here to prepare for a relief cut, but essentially you have a skin that adds to your structural rigidity, right? So when you have something that bends, let's say this pencil right here, right? Just take this example right here. When you bend it, the one side is going to be in tension, right? It's going to want to separate because you're bending, and the other side will be under compression, right? That's just basic engineering theory. And so what happens with this film that you apply, right? If you apply a reinforcement on the top with tape, right, and you try bending it, it's gonna act in tension and really reinforce your aircraft structure there. And so most of these structures, the base structures here, are made out of cardstock. So this actually works in our favor because it really just strengthens a otherwise pretty like weak material. I know it's like it's like weak, like not really, but it adds another layer of security and peace of mind. It's just a better way to do aircraft structures. It's lightweight too. It's not like duct tape, which is really heavy, but also duct tape is a lot more reinforced, right? So it's just a matter of trade-offs, and I tend to just stick with Scotch tape because it's readily available. It's like an office supply, everybody has it basically, and it's really cheap to get. Yeah, so I got like 24 rolls for probably like 30 something bucks. So it's not that bad at all when it comes to office supplies. But and if you have a job, you can borrow tape from your office and never return it. But yeah, it's a great material, and it's like kind of mimicking in some ways. You're trying to mimic this kind of composite material-ish concept, right? It's not a like carbon fiber, obviously. Like, you know, like you listen to people rave about carbon fiber composites. It's not anything like that, but it is still a laminate, right? You have layers of cardstock and tape, um, and it just works. It's just really a nice solution at this scale, for these gliders. Um, I tend not to call these things paper airplanes anymore because they're a little bit more than that. They're a little bit more involved, right? If you look at this leading edge right here, it is thick, right? This is not what you imagine a normal paper airplane to look like, right? It is hefty. This thing is heavy. It's also quite large. Let's see what its wingspan is. I haven't actually measured this yet, but let's see. So we move our ruler a little bit over 0 there. It's about 10.5 inches. It's a little under 10.5 inches. So I don't know what that equates to in area for this plan form. I'm sure I could scale it if I wanted to, but don't feel like doing math right now, so we will leave that for another time. Right, so we just need to reinforce the side too. Alright, so that's that. We have a piece of tape. And right now, we're just reinforcing the front edge of this aircraft. Leading edges are a weak spot in many cases, because what you're dealing with is the load of eventually the glider has to come down and it's going to impact the ground, and the leading edge is usually the place where it takes the most damage, takes the most load. So that's why we're reinforcing this with a second layer, and also just to smooth out some of the previous taping, right? You want it to be an aerodynamic surface, a very smooth surface, so that there's less drag. This isn't by any means like a high performance glider, right? You look at those long winged, high aspect ratio German designed gliders, with the T-tails and the very long and thin fuselages. Those things have like an L over D ratio of like 40 plus, which means L over D is like a measure of efficiency. It's, aerodynamically speaking, it's a measure of effectiveness in keeping your plane aloft, right? An L over D of 40, there's a proof for this, but it essentially means for every 1 foot drop in elevation, you go forward 40 meters or 40 feet, right? So it's a 40 to 1 ratio basically. But you can also think of it in other different ways. But this isn't one of those. But in that case, in one of those gliders, a tiny surface panel, right? Like when you get into the cockpit, if the cockpit is like not properly sealed and there's like a tiny microscopic like edge, right, it's gonna cause a huge degradation in the performance of that aircraft. So we're not really at that level with this design, right? This is just like a hobbyist, I'm trying my best to create a great aircraft, but there's still gonna be some places where there's gonna be drag. And mainly right now, I'm looking at, the places where I need to apply some tape to really close it off. I feel like the vertical stabilizer is one of those positions because this is a separate structure that's been taped to the wing body. And so on this side especially, it's really obvious that, it's kind of lifting off. And so this would cause some level of drag, so we need to tape that down. So just grab a segment of tape here. Yep, just really tightly bind that down to the underside. And I think the other side is all set, but I just need to duplicate it just to be consistent here. Alright, so move it a little bit forward. There we go. Alright. So, looks pretty good. I think the next step is to reinforce the leading edge. Right now it's a little bit rough, right? So just need to grab the length of this leading edge right here. Tailor a piece of tape to that length. So you see this roughness, right? It all goes away when you wrap this piece of tape around it. And so it's, in a lot of ways, it's actually kind of, you know, oddly satisfying, right? You're smoothing out roughness and really creating a better edge, right, for the air to pass over. Let's say with like this plane, we experimented with wooden wooden spars. Essentially, we put paper, or not paper, we put popsicle sticks right inside the wing to make it really rigid. And so what this does here is actually it makes it a little bit thinner, this wing, than I'd actually like. It looks out of proportion to the fuselage, but we'll test out how this works. I feel like performance-wise, this will probably be better because it means less drag, right? You don't need a thick airfoil if you have such a big, body already. So I'm just gonna finish off the other leading edge, and then we'll have to worry about the wingtips. I have a separate plan to tackle those. So. Go. I have to cut that later. But otherwise, I mean, this is like standard procedure. You just tape over the leading edge to protect it, right? Because like sometimes even when you flight test, you get debris, right, hitting the wings. So this really protects it really nicely from like things like grass and leaves and dirt, right? So yeah, that looks really nice. All right, so I think now we have to worry about the wingtips. And so for the wingtips of this design, it's actually really interesting, right? So you have an angle here that's parallel to the inner, edge here of the wing body. And that's to maintain stealth characteristics. But in our case, it's another surface to, that means for us is it's another surface to tape together. And I don't feel like just a tape piece combining these two would be enough. This would make it a really thin structure, right? It doesn't have any curvature. It's just straight, like two edges like this, and then, it's not really all set to go. So I feel like I kind of want to get like a tiny piece of cardstock and make like a little sheath for that, like a little shape to cover that up. Also on this side too. So I'm gonna do that. I'm wondering what color I should do this in. I feel like I have a lot of gray. I want to try white because it adds a little bit of trim color. But I have a ton of gray, so I feel like I'm just gonna use gray for sake of not wasting material. Alright. So I'm actually gonna make a tiny template here. Bottom side here. Alright, you know what? That's actually a better idea. This is kind of tough because the plane is already pretty much done. But let's just trace out the wingtip shape here. Want it to go here. And that's like about in line, right? So that's the aircraft axis. This is how much we want it to cover, right? And then we'll just have to duplicate it on the other side to get that cover shape. Okay. So this is just a really rapid prototype. Test out how this fits. Just fold it in half. This is just regular printed paper. When you prototype templates, you definitely just use printed paper. You don't have to go all out with cardstock until the final piece that you want to make. All right, it looks decent. It's not a perfect fit. So I'm wondering why that is. Well, it was made rather quickly, so I feel like that might be the reason, but just trim this edge and see how it fits. This is where craftsmanship comes into play, right? You could like definitely just tape this off and fly it, but I want it to be secure. Alright. Yeah, actually the white looks really nice. It adds some accent to the wingtip. But I don't want to waste like take out a fresh new sheet of white cardstock just for this. That's really not the point here. Point is to get a working aircraft. Alright, so I'm gonna extend this a little bit just so that we have enough margin to so this should be moved over a little bit. I'm just transferring the template right now to cardstock. So this is how it's going to look like. Notice I lined one edge with a straight edge. That's to simplify the cut itself, right? I'm going to do this, but this is not recommended. This is not best practice, right? You use your template to create the part, not your part to create the part, because when you use your part to create another part, there's going to be some error that's going to be compounded right? It's, if you think about it, its outline is going to be ever so slightly greater in size than what you had previously, because you're just, you know, applying another layer of lead around the perimeter of your part. But since this part is so small, I have no problem. It's not like a flight critical thing. It's literally just protection. So I'm not stressing too much over the accuracy here, or precision, whatever it is. Yeah. All right, so we have our parts, these two tiny parts. We also need to fold it. So to do that, I'm gonna grab a ruler. Just gonna pinch one side down. This is gonna be quite tough, quite difficult, because right, it's a really small piece to fold. But there we go. This will be our wingtip reinforcement. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Just a tiny fold to get it started. Just fold down. Should be all set there. This is gonna look interesting, right? All right, that looks decent. Right, it doesn't look half bad. You'll notice we have some overhang, and that's intentional because we can trim it exactly to shape afterwards, so it'll be a perfect match. All right, so to really attach this, to install this in place, grab a square piece of tape, kind of align it. Okay, maybe I'll grab another one. Just trimming off tiny little bits here and there. And then for the trailing edge right here, we can, actually there's a little bit of wing that I'm probably gonna trim off too. It's just really satisfying when you do that and you clean up this edge, right? Now it looks super sharp, super clean. That winglet is a vulnerable part of this design because the strut, or not the strut, the spar doesn't go all the way to the tip, right? It ends right about here, so the tip is just literally supporting itself. Is just aircraft skin, which is the cardstock here. So Looks like the tape came off down here. Let's see if that happens again. If it happens again, we'll have to laminate that down. Alright, so now we just take our other piece, and grab a piece of tape, and yeah, that looks about right. Except I think on the left side of the aircraft, on the port side, it's the other way around, so just gotta make sure I attach that right. Ooh, this is kind of hard. It's a small part to install. You just literally have to make sure the tip matches up. All right, let's trim off the tip here. Clean that up a little bit. Then trim the trailing edge here, the wingtip. Decent. And now all we have to do is, I think I'm probably going to laminate the entire thing, just to get it to be a little bit more durable. So we also need to close off the wing trailing edge here, just a tiny bit, but still important. Looks pretty good. So all the trailing edges are done. The wingtip trailing edge now, I'm going to tape those. Grab a length of tape, right? Try and match it. So the trailing edge doesn't really need reinforcement. And that's because you want it to be thin to provide a nice airfoil structure. So you don't have to reinforce the back side of the tip. Looks pretty good. Right. Just really tightly wrap that around. Okay. And just trim off the trailing edge here. Clean up this little bit. Yeah, there we go. Nice and clean. All right, great. These little tape specs are kind of annoying. They stick to everything. But you're all set. So as of now, I think it's ready to fly, but since we want it to be a little bit more reinforced, I am going to spend some time to laminate this. Yeah, just go ahead and do that. Alright, so so we gotta tape down the middle. Right, so this uses a lot of tape, but hopefully this plane will last a long time. Of course, this isn't meant to make it waterproof, right? That's not the goal here. The goal is to make it more resistant to the elements. So, just apply pressure so that the adhesive bonds with the paper. Alright, for the excess bits, I'm just gonna cut it off, because I don't want the extra tape to add thickness to the bottom side. I mean, you could just let it do that, but I think I will not do that. So allow for a cleaner build. Okay. It's a very clean cut. Just grab that. side down. One more tape piece on this side. It's just about enough, I think. There we go. Alright. If you just joined the stream, right now we are just laminating the X47B that we worked on last week. Earlier in the stream we made some wingtip covers here to reinforce the edge there. This is only the right side, still got to do it to the left side and also the bottom side. If anything, the bottom side should be prioritized because that's where it's most likely going to come into contact with dirt and grass and whatnot. But it is what it is. We already started on the top side, so ooh, that's not a very straight cut. Just see if we can. It's all right. It's not gonna be fixable. I could tape over it, but I don't feel like doing that. I feel like it's adds to the character. It's gonna be my lame ass excuse for a tiny mistake here. Oh, still need to trim that. Yeah, totally forgot about that one. Yeah, there we go. Much better. Alright, so the right top side is pretty much done. Just need to secure or not secure, laminate the wing itself. Since the wing is pretty thin, we only really need one piece to secure it here. Ideally, when you do this lamination step, you go from the trailing edge to the leading edge. And the reason for that is you have your tape layer in the back and you layer on top of it like this, and then you layer on top of that, right? And then curve over the leading edge. And so what that does is it creates the step going back instead of, step meeting the airflow, incoming airflow. So it's a tiny detail, but ideally it would be like that. But since I haven't done any lamination in a while, it's just kind of escaped my mind. Really should do it that way, from the trailing edge forward. And again, it's a small detail, but it will affect your drag characteristics. Right, if it's stepped against the airflow, you're gonna have more drag, more skin friction. Although at this scale, I'm not sure that's a huge amount. It's still a little bit, right? So if you want the absolute best, uh, then you would have to do it that way. But not really concerned with that here. Just adding some protection to the overall aircraft. So now we just got to do the other side. I'm wondering if I can just directly tape off. Yeah, wow, okay. That's new. Alright, so saved a step. That's not too entirely perfect, but alright. Just gonna trim this side off. top side is pretty much all set. I'm thinking about whether or not I should tape the vertical stabilizer here. I think I should. Also should tape the bottom. Might do both. I think for the vertical surfaces, I'm not going to be too stringent. I am just going to cover the leading edge just to give it a little protection there against any potential hits. Right. So, just going to measure this out. Apply it to this side here. Right side. Okay, I can start the underside here. start from the center. So there's a little bit here in the back. Previously. Okay. I'm just going to work our way outboard. Okay, now we're just going to slice off some of the excess. Very clean cut. There we go. Okay. Laminate this next layer. Bit of excess. That's the only downside to directly applying tape onto the workpiece. Just get a lot of waste like this, but hopefully I can use it somewhere else. So the left underside is now complete. It's completely laminated. Now we just need to do this side. Forgot to trim this. this piece right here. It's all set. Alright, this thing is ready to go. Just need to cut some control surfaces and then time for some flight tests. So that's pretty much it to the build of this thing. Right, it's been laminated quite thoroughly, I would think. So hopefully it'll be resistant to damage and wear. But like with all things, it will show its age over time. For example, if you look at this thing right here, this is the same cardstock after it's been exposed to sunlight. So you can tell there's quite a difference in the shading, in the color. This was a different prototype of the X47, but you get the idea. It's the same material, but it's been bleached by the sun, essentially. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this build. I know I usually do like a 2-hour stream, so I still have an hour left to go. I'm open. How much? Okay, so I got a question in the chat. How much weight does laminating with tape add to an aircraft? That's a good question. I would imagine a couple of grams. Not too much. It's a pretty lightweight material. So, what is the indentation in the rear center for? Rear center. So this part right here is, you know, it's an artifact. It's not supposed to be there. It's not a feature. It's a bug, so to speak. If I really wanted to, I could actually just like cover it with another piece of cardstock, but I feel like that would be unnecessary because this is mostly meant to fly, right? And this is the result of trying to bend paper in multiple directions. And so what happens is you get some warping that happens locally, and it's just the result of cardstock being cardstock. So, but otherwise, I mean, this is pretty straightforward design, I feel like. So I'm gonna use some leftover tape here to reinforce this trailing edge right here. Vertical stabilizer is lifting off a little bit in the back, so I'm just securing that down tight. Yeah, that's much better. All right, and so the other side here, I am going to, so there's a little bit of a gap here. I'm just gonna tape that down really nice. So, otherwise, I mean, this plane is all set to go. I feel like all I need to do now is give it some control surfaces, which I will wait until the flight test to do that. If it's necessary, I'll do it. I'll bring a pair of scissors to the test flight. But yeah, otherwise, reducing the amount of cuts, right, increases structural rigidity. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this build. So I'm open to suggestions from people out there. If you're watching, there's only one person watching, so kudos to you for sticking around. But I've been thinking about doing real life aircraft. Probably something that I haven't done before. So I'm just gonna model off of that. I haven't done a real aircraft and a design based on a real aircraft in a long time. So that'll be interesting to revisit, because that's kind of where this channel started, was real life aircraft. So, I'm just thinking right now, top of my head, I don't want to build an F-14, at least not right now, because that involves a mechanism, and I'm still working on my Astra design, Astra prototype. So I could work on the Astra prototype, or I could start a new project. So I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about it right now. I kind of want to build an F-15 or F-16, kind of just for the heck of it, just to have like a real life design. I feel like, so if I were to go between the F-15 and F-16, which one would you guys prefer to see? If you're online, you have a considerable amount of say in what I do, because I'm really kind of ambivalent to both. I could go either way. So F-16, all right. Lightweight fighter, mid-70s. Single vertical stabilizer. That's actually quite interesting. I don't think I've built a plane with a single vertical stabilizer in a long time. And yeah, I kind of want to do like an aircraft that doesn't have too many variants. The F-16, has like about 50 blocks, which are essentially updates. Right? You have like the conformal fuel tanks and whatnot, but at the core, the design has been the same since the 70s. So there's not a lot of physical variation, so I can just make one plane and call it F-16, and it'll be all set to go. But with the F-15, there's a C variant, which is like kind of the lightweight air-to-air kind of variant of it. There's the F-15, E, of course, which is like the heavy strike fighter version. It's a twin-seater, I believe. It carries a ton of bombs and whatnot. There's F-15 EX, which is coming up, right? So we don't really know what that one looks like, but they all look pretty similar. But there's also the F-15 SMTD, which is the short takeoff, vertical takeoff, short takeoff, yeah, STOL design with the canards. So I think I'll do that later, because I do want to incorporate my new mechanism into the active, right? So, but for the F-16, it's pretty simple. I don't think I want to do any mechanisms unless I decide to, which now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of want to, just get the leading edge slats down, right? Because that's like a defining feature of F-16 in a tight turn. Link that mechanism up with like the tail. That'll be quite an interesting project. So yeah, actually, let's just do an F-16. Sounds like a fun one-time project, and then the F-15 I can do like a base, and then at a point in the middle, actually I'll just do the active version of it, or maybe not. I don't know. We'll decide when the time comes, but for now we're gonna go with the F-16. So I still need to make a video for this and the rapid prototype, but that's in the works. Just got a new memory card for my full frame camera, so hopefully I don't have to use my iPhone to make videos anymore. I can take proper video. So I'm waiting on that, and that's just an excuse. I really should have gotten the video done by now, but those are still works in progress. So let's get started on the F-16. I haven't actually made one yet on this channel, so it's gonna be quite interesting how it goes. Is that because I don't have any experience building that airframe, so I don't know how it'll turn out, but we will see. First thing we need to do is I'm gonna use my iPad, so I'm just grabbing like a blueprint real quick off the internet. And 16 diagram, images. The F-16 is a pretty famous design, right? It's a lightweight fighter. I'm gonna save this file to photos, and then go to light board, trace table. Grab a picture, grab my F-16. Try and make it as large as the iPad itself. That way we have a little bit more room to play with. Alright, I'm gonna lock this. Alright, so sorry about that, but needed to get the outline of the aircraft ready. Just grab some paper right now. Oh, nope, that paper's been cut. Never mind. Let's remove some of this excess tape here. Look at all this tape. Oh my goodness. So much waste. Anyways. Rip the environment. Anyway. Yeah, this is the light table app, right? Or trace table. We can just overlay our just trying to get the camera to focus, but we can overlay the paper on our iPad and trace out the basic shape. Yeah, I'm actually new to this. Haven't built a real life airplane in such a long time. The way I've scaled it is the length is about 11 inches. It's a little shorter than that, but I included the tail section here. So maybe, yeah, I'm not sure. I think I'll just leave it like this for now. I want to take advantage of the length of the iPad, which is, to get a large size for the airplane. So maybe I'll just do that. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Well, this is actually quite large, larger than I expected, but we will stick with that. All right, so it's locked in place. There we go. So we're gonna be building an F-16 because only one person was on the stream. I think it was Benjamin. He's a longtime follower of my work, so just want to give him a shout out. But I mean, my name is also Benjamin, but that's not the point. The point is he was the only person to give an input on what project I should do next, and I kind of agreed with him on doing an F-16. So I haven't done a real life aircraft in a long time, and I'm just adjusting the camera a little bit. There we go. All right, so this is pretty interesting. This is so we want to get the main fuselage shape down first. want to build the wings separately. Let's see. Let's check the comment here. All right, so. Just mark out some points. Right, real quick here. Fighting Falcon. F-16. All right. Should be all set here. All right. So that's really all we need, I feel like. Yeah. We'll refer to this more down the line, but I haven't done this in a while, so please forgive me. I used to do this by eye, believe it or not. So essentially what I did was I would make a regular paper airplane and then attach wings to it and do it by eye and make it look like an F-16 or whatnot. So with this new technology, an iPad acting as a light table, that's, you know, that was unthinkable when I started this channel because technology just wasn't there. I mean, iPads existed, but you know, at the time I was probably like a middle schooler, high schooler, so I couldn't really afford that. But nowadays, I get the tools I need to create. Hopefully this will work out well. Looks like I don't know if that was actually what the geometry was. Let me just refer to it again. Okay, that was absolutely wrong. Or maybe not. I forgot to account for the border, I think. Maybe it's right. Yeah, it is right. So this actually goes straight down, not like that. And then there's like a little step here. There we go, much better. But that's actually a flight surface, so we're not going to be concerned about that for the time being. I'm just going to get the fuselage down. I mean, of course, you could definitely print this, but I just don't have a printer with me, so I'm gonna have to erase that line. Just gonna clean up the line work a little bit. Alright, gotta cut the base fuselage shape first. This kind of, yeah, the fuselage extends out here, I feel like. It just like covers the wing a little bit. Maybe like a sandwich, I'm thinking. Yeah, this is kind of messy. There we go. Just mark out some vertices here. that to the side. It's just a matter of connecting the dots now. Grab an eraser. Where'd my eraser go? Dang it, I always lose my eraser. Dude, like what? Where could it possibly have? Alright. Find another eraser. Dang, dude. It was like right here. Oh, this makes me sad. It was right there. It was hiding behind my computer mouse. Never mind. Got it. Just kind of shave that excess off. I think it went all the way up here, right? Not sure why there's a slight offset. I'm just gonna assume that it goes straight. The nice thing about doing this is you don't really have to worry about proportions or, you know, the planning. You just have to size it and then just trace, because the design is already there. Alright, so this is going to be an interesting part, right? Trying to get the curves. Nose. Center line. We don't actually need this for now. I'll lightly erase it. Check my template again, real quick. Let's see if it matches. Which is pretty closely. Center line is correct. It's really the most important bit, because that's going to define the shape on the other side. Okay, looks pretty nice. It's a pretty straight design too, the back, right after the cockpit. It just kind of, you know, tapers into a straight line here, so that'll make it easier to model, like model this back section here with like a internal structure and cardstock wrapping around. And then the front bit here is going to be interesting, probably like a slanted edge here, so maybe like a straw cut diagonally to really form that shape. And then the cockpit is going to be a hard part to model. It's a bubble canopy, right? So if you notice down here, it's a bubble canopy, and it has a lot of subtle curves to it, so it's gonna be kind of hard to model, but we'll try our best and see how it goes. But yeah, the wing itself looks pretty small. This plane is like about a third fuselage. I mean, it's like a little less than a third, but this width right here is about a third. It's a very low aspect ratio, right? Fighter jets tend to do that. Have low aspect ratios. Just trying to match up my current. Just trying to make some corrections here. Looks okay. It's pretty close, but this line is more accurate. Maybe it does taper a little bit. It's not a straight edge. Just move this out of the way. Let's see how that goes. No, it's a straight edge. It's just offset in a little bit. It's crazy, even with all this technology, right? Accuracy is still a problem. It'd be better just to print, but I need to get a printer set up. Yeah. I'm just gonna extend this line to the center line. And I have our fuselage base shape here, all set to go. Just gonna clean up some lines here. Pretty good. Alright, I can start cutting. I feel like for this, I might use my X-Acto, but I do have a cutting mat. But since it's a lot of cuts, this will be faster than using scissors. Closer so you can better see it. Okay, and then this part, I might use a scissor or scissors. Yeah, this is not the perfect cut. Alright, that was not a clean cut. I didn't apply enough pressure, but it is creased pretty. Okay, then I'm just gonna cut the rest of the way up. Is it back here? Yeah, it is. It's just still attached. There we go. Alright. Looks pretty good. Just need to give ourselves some space here to fold over this center line here. Pinch that. Yeah, I can just separate this back end here, just to make it a little easier for myself. Right, separate that. Okay. Looks decent. Just need to cut it out now, which is the tedious part. But this is where craftsmanship and once you get started, you get into a state of zen, essentially. You're just super focused. myself. My fingers are right underneath the paper. There we go. And then the front bit, I don't really have a thing for that. Straight edge or curved edge. So to use scissors. Sharp tip, but let's see what happens there. Alright, we have a template for the fuselage cut out. So let's see, we have approximately 20 minutes left. I'm gonna transfer this onto a cardstock, or not a cardstock, but actual cardboard maybe, to get a very strong core material for the fuselage. So I'm gonna do that, trace it on, and then cut that out. And next time we can continue off of that. I don't know if this is gonna take the full 20 minutes, but depending on craftsmanship, I guess it may or may not take that long. I'm just gonna trim this edge a little bit. Much better. Alright, let me just get that material real quick. I'll be right back. This enough? This is enough. So this is the one that we used last time for prototype 004. Looks like there's just about enough. Wow, that is quite on the dot there. Just enough material. Yep. Just barely. It's very close. Maybe switch it to that side. Essentially what we're doing here is we want to get a stiffer fuselage. I'm just going to get rid of the unnecessary bits here. How far can we push it? Alright, I think I'm gonna choose that as my anchor point. So lightly. Trace this. Oh my goodness. Alright, that is a very thin edge. In case you're wondering, this is a piece of cardboard, thin cardboard. It's not like a, you know, with the empty core. It's just literally cardboard material from a cereal box. I think it was Cheerios in this case, but they should all be the same packaging basically. But I'm just using or reusing material, right? Repurposing material to be a little bit more conscious of my environmental impact. Going out and buying material is a waste when you already have this material in your day-to-day life. So the only things that you should buy are glue. I don't really use glue that much, but glue, tape, and then specialty materials like wire or electronics or springs, things like that. Alright, got a good outline here. I'm going to use a heavier pair of scissors to cut this. I don't want to damage my nice Muji scissors. So, these ones are from IKEA. Yeah, heavy duty, thicker scissors here. So, it cuts easier through this material as well. So that's nice. I think I'm just gonna cut like that. Make it a little bit easier on myself. Definitely could use an X-Acto knife, but I feel like it would just be a lot of unnecessary struggle in this case. You can use a pair of scissors much easier on this material. Yeah, okay, that's pretty close. Just need a little bit more on this side. have that template in cardboard. Nice. As you can see, it is part of a Cheerio box. So take it as it is. I'm gonna start building our plane off of this core shape here. I feel like I don't know what I should work on next, the rest of the fuselage or the wings. I feel like to mold the shape, I really need the wings in place to get a good feel, right, for what's happening. But let's see. If I get the wings going, I can build the wings, attach them, have it be all set to go. Right, the wings will end probably here somewhere. Right, the stem covers the wing, and then the tail here. Don't know if I want to do like a moving tail and slat surface. If that's the case, then I definitely do need to have the wings in place. Let's actually just take a look at how it fits together. Let me just grab my iPad real quick. Alright, so this is what we're basing our build off of. Right now we have the core fuselage right here. Alright, so if we build our wings and our tail, because there are moving parts in the wings and the tail, I feel like we need to have those two parts ready to go. At least the wing, you know, I should get that built and then attached. But then the tail, since it's all moving, it's an all moving surface. So I'm not gonna build that per se, but I definitely need to know where the hinge point is, so that the actuation mechanism can account for that. I'm thinking of a linked mechanism internally, right? Just it's the same design as the Astra if you watched my live streams previously, but essentially one actuation system will drive both movements. In the Astra, it's actually been separated, the slat deployment mechanism and the tail, or in that case the canard, it's separated into top and bottom parts. But here, I'm thinking it's possible to link it all in one, since, you know, your slats, they're going to be going down, and while these are going down, these are also pointing down to pitch up, right? So that actually makes sense because the movement is synchronized in the same direction, so that way we can just use one actuation mechanism. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I think the next step would be to definitely build the wings and make the tail parts possibly. But yeah, definitely build the wings. So I think that's going to be the next step. Usually I do 2-hour streams, so we're at 1:15. I gotta go to 1:20. So let's actually get started on the wings real quick, and then see how far we can go. I don't think we have enough paper here to accommodate double-sided wings, so we're gonna have to, unfortunately, grab another piece of paper. This is not very material efficient. If I planned better, I would have made the fuselage off to one side of the piece of paper, but I did not. So now we are paying for that mistake with another sheet of paper. So here we are. Okay, so I need to move this a little bit over. It in place, and all right, so this is really nice because it's a right angle. This plane has a lot of neat just angles, right? This is a freaking 90-degree angle right here, and then the tail is 90 degrees here, and it was just very nicely laid out. It's not a very organic shape like the F-22 or F-15. I mean, it makes sense in the context that it's a lightweight fighter design, right? It's supposed to be cheap and easy to manufacture, so these right angles facilitate that. Right angles and straight edges, they don't happen in nature, right? They don't look organic. They're the result of human-made objects. So I'm gonna so we need a little bit of wing to be on the inside of the fuselage. What I mean by that is, again, we need that cantilever, right? Wings are essentially cantilevers. We need a little bit inside to give it that rigidity, right? Because if you just have it attach on the outside, it's not structurally reinforced. So you should look into that and make sure that it is all set there. So this is kind of just outlining where the wing is going to go. This is going to come into the middle here. This is a point. This is a point. I'm just drawing some features so I can get a feel when I notice I'm not tracing edges all that much, because I can do that cleanly with a ruler off the platform or off the iPad. It's really not good to draw with a super sharp tip on an iPad. It looks pretty good. The wing ends here, trailing edge flaps. Right, these are flapped, but I think they might also be used to increase roll performance, but I'm not sure. I'll have to check on that. Yep. Looks pretty good to me. Right. Again, this is just for reference, right? It's not going to be in the actual part until it's actually being made. Alright, so I'm just about at 2 hours, but I'll go a little over. I'll finish this part and call it quits for today, but let's continue here just for a little bit longer. This wing is actually quite stubby if you think about it. It's not that large. Of course, we are just looking at one side right now, but when you take into account that you have two wings on an airplane, it'll look a little bit larger. It'll have a larger presence. Right? So this fits right about here, I want to say. Yeah, somewhere here. And then you have your tail here. So it's actually a decent size. But anyways, it's just a very stocky design. Very short, stubby wings. As with most fighter jets. This is the main layout, I feel like. Just try and match it up real quick. Yep, it is just that small. Alright, and it goes to the middle. So we're all set there. So now I just need to make a mirror image of it. And so we've got to cut this and this, and then fold it over. That should be quite easy. our second ruler here. Just pinch. Down. That's interesting. It's not a perfect 45-degree angle. Today I learned. Right? I mean, of course, obviously, I don't have the blueprints for this thing. People have drawn diagrams, but nothing is going to come close to the exact blueprint. But hoping to get the exact blueprint is kind of insane because it is a military plane. So, I mean, even non-military planes like commercial aircraft, you're not going to find the blueprints online. It's just the manufacturers just don't publish that material, right? Because your competitors can easily glean information off of that. But I like this one. It's relatively simple. Easy, straightforward. I believe this is what we had. So this is the wing. It goes like that. It's gonna fit like that. So there we go. Clean that up. We'll have to see how it fits exactly, but we have the template now, and I am just about out of time. I mean, I could go on, it's just usually I cap it at 2 hours because I don't want to run out of energy and be boring to watch. I mean, it is quite boring to watch me make these things, but I want to do good work, so I'm going to take a break. So yeah, next time I think we will continue on this journey of making an F-16. Right now we have the wing template done, right? This is gonna go here. This is, well, I mean, it's like symmetric, so it really doesn't matter, but we're gonna put the wing on next time. Or before we do that, we're gonna copy it to cardstock material, which is this gray material right here. That'll actually look really nice because the F-16 is already gray, but we'll do that, create the cardstock piece, install it, right, assemble the spars. Okay, actually this is going to be interesting because we want to include the slats. So that means we have to incorporate the spar and the slat mechanism. I have a design ready. It's just a matter of building it. And that is going to take a while, but we'll see where it goes. The thing with mechanism is that it's like so reliant on everything working perfectly together, right? So the amount of actuation, right, the mechanism itself, it all has to meet properly. So it's kind of like a chicken or the egg kind of problem, right? You can define it all in a drawing and fix it up, but actually building it is you're dealing with 3 dimensions, different materials, different things. But I feel like this should be pretty exciting. It's the first time I'm going back to real life designs since the channel began, really. And I used to make things eyeballing, but now it's a little bit more precise with the iPad and whatnot. But I'm excited to work on this project in the next stream. Just gotta work on the wings, the mechanism here, figure out how all of that fits together,
It's actually really clever, if I do say so myself, the mechanism for the leading edge slats, but I'll show you guys the process of making it next time, if we get to it, right? We still need to set things up for the actual mechanism. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Yeah, thanks for watching. 4 of you that are watching this stream right now. But yeah, we'll keep in touch and work on your own projects and just be kind to each other out there. It's a crazy world, but you know, you guys already knew that probably. So, all right, thanks for watching, guys. Peace.